Again, good systems, both hands working at the same time. As soon as I get the full presentation, that trigger's prepped, that sight's aligned acceptably. Ready?
Side note, if your holster doesn't allow you to get between the belt and your grip, to get your hands in there, it's not helping you. So just look right now at your own holster. If you're on the outside the waistband, you shouldn't have that problem. But if you're inside the waistband, I've measured for about a month or two at classes. I was just putting tape measures on different people's belts, and it seems like 5/8 of an inch is like the magic number. Much more, and as the gun rides higher and higher, not out of the holster, but if the holster's lifted higher, you get easier access, but then the gun, you're losing concealment, because the gun, especially if you have a tummy, starts to look like this under your shirt, right? I love it when you're like around a bunch of guys and they're like this. You guys see it? Like you go to like the high-speed performance red dot concealed classes, and it's dudes with like Glock 34s with red dots and in a 30-round stick, and it's just like, yeah, man, I'm concealed. It's like, no, you're not. So it's a trade-off, right, between concealability and accessibility. The deeper it is, the opposite. If this thing gets so buried in my pants,
that grip needs to be acceptably tight once you present, right? My wrists are locked, like just mentioned, right? Both hands are gripping. Both hands are gripping. Why not? Why have two hands on the gun if both hands aren't going to help you out? All right. Again, good, perfect performance right here. You guys are machines. Ready?
if it gets so buried, now I can't get my finger between there, and then you've got this problem where you try to work it up. So if you're in a good spot, then fine. But that connection to the gun, we don't want to draw and then have to make manipulations, right? You guys all get that? So that master grip happens here. Connection, as Zee was talking about yesterday, for me, I've got this big lump of scar tissue. And
here we go again. Think about something that you may want to correct on this one and focus on that portion of the performance, right? What do I need to correct here? Right, I definitely need to have that sight align. Don't press that trigger until it is. If your draw is pretty smooth and consistent, the sight should be in the same spot pretty much every single time that you draw. That's what we're looking for. Ready? Follow through, good job. I appreciate you guys taking your time. You're putting thought into it, right? We're not just going into automated mode where just act like zombies and do whatever. We think about what's going on.
High and tight, circumferential pressure all the way around the grip, circumferential all the way around. So I'm not just touching in certain spots. The more I can get on it, the better. So ideally, if we put this gun into a vise or poured concrete around it, right, and let that concrete cure, and there was enough concrete there, would the muzzle rise at all when the trigger went off? I mean, maybe there'd be some slight vibration lifting it up, but in order for this to lift, this needs to move forward, right? It has to. So what else moves? Our elbows, our shoulders, us, right? If you wrapped all my joints in like 10 rolls of duct tape, my feet can still move, right? So then we might have to drive ourselves forward, right? You watch old videos, Tom McGivern would shoot a pistol, and there's videos of, they're not, it's freaking, it's like 1930, of him taking a 6-shooter, and he'd shoot like this, and it was just like the whole 6 shots in half a second. And this guy could hit aspirin out of the air and cut playing cards from 50 yards and shit like that with a revolver. He'd shoot, and then you'd watch him fall forward as the last round went off, right? He's so locked in and driving into the gun. You look at any of the old gunfighters, guys like Jim Cirillo, who was the New York Stakeout Squad, all those guys that came from World War II era and became coppers when it was still legal to shoot bad guys. All of them talked about running the gun forward. You ever see the old FBI pictures of guys like this? Yeah. You know, and you look and you're like, why are they doing that? Well, they didn't yet decide that 2 hands was good on the gun, but they were driving the gun forward, right? I'm not suggesting that we do this, but the same principles need to be there. So we're strong behind the gun. They'd get a connection point to their body here. So their gun would come out of the holster and they'd put them up, you know, put them up, see? Like that, you know? Come on, you.
Don't be pissed at yourself. If you get mad, don't break your system because you something. Just follow through. What's important now, continue doing what you're doing. And remember, I see some people when you're holstering, everything's in reverse. Both hands are still working at the same time when you put the gun away in the holster. Even if you don't have a garment to remove, both hands work. I'm building a system here. Both hands work.
These guys years ago figured out, instead of doing things like Cooper was teaching, which still works, and bad guys like Hart and Livers don't mind how you were holding the gun, they decided the more we get behind the gun and the more we grip it, the better. So he started talking to you yesterday about thinking about actuating that left hand. Quit being a hold on to it. If saying offends you, stop being a okay? When we think about this hand, if our hand is straight versus slightly cammed forward, we get a different connection to the gun.
Ready. Following through, I'm breathing, I'm seeing what's going on around me. I want to make sure everything's safe. I want to make sure nothing's happened that I wasn't picking up on.
Women are good at this. They're like, show me what to do, and then they do it until they don't. But guys take a little and they think like if this is good, this must be better, this must be excellent, right? This is even better, right? Like we do that shit, right? There's a kid that we started training with. He's bigger than anybody here. He's like as big as Rob. He's like frickin' huge biceps. Like where's like this guy, you seen him shirtless yesterday? He's 30% bigger than that guy. And he was taught that to get this hand higher on the gun, well, he now developed this. He shoots just like this. You can walk up on his left side and poke him in the ear. He won't see you. And he shoots really well, but he decided that, well, higher's better because I see this on the internet. So he got higher and higher, and now he's screwed. He holds his long gun like that, higher, higher, higher. And got so high that now he can't see because he thought like more is better. There's a point of diminishing return because we still got to be mobile and comfortable, yeah? So when guys tell you flare the elbows more or less or in or out, it depends on your body, right? Somebody that's thin and wiry might have to be more aggressive than somebody that's super strong and thick. Like Anthony there probably can just stand behind the gun and put a little weight into his toes and it won't move anywhere, right? Somebody that's built like Kanan might have to. If you watch Kanan when he runs the gun hard, he pulls that sweet little nephew ass back and his arms are super like, right? Yeah. Uncle like this. And I'm like, it's a joke, you creeps. So that's from touching that trigger guard. Coincidentally, on the other hand, this one is got that same little chunk of calloused bone from it smacking into the trigger guard as the gun comes together. Demonstrate your grip. You know, so you run the gun hard. So like, see, he's got a, if you look at this, this is tight. So as we're standing there and we're engaging, it's not just arms, our core needs to tighten up. We're not crunching, but our core gets tight. Just like you were gonna bend down and pick up something. You're gonna do a squat. Your core should be engaged, right? It's not just your legs and back and arms. So as our core gets tight, then our whole midsection is buttressed behind the gun. But if we just tighten that up and we don't run our weight forward as we shoot, put the gun back up and just relax your upper body. You know, as we shoot, look at his feet. Then that happens, right? So now get strong. Now that happens, right? Yes?
Ready.
The support hand, super important. All of these movements, I connect in the same spot. The same spot is different for all of us. The bigger the gun is, this might change. Anybody that tells you that this exact point of your finger must be the contact point, that's bullshit. Because if you take lady hands on a big gun or big man hands on a little gun, the things are going to contact in a different spot. Make sense? So most of you are doing really great, so I don't want to go too much more into it. But as we connect, think about this. Rolling forward.
Unless you have a specific focus in your head, I want you to focus on this. The trigger is ready and the sights are acceptably aligned by the time I get to that full presentation. And then I trust that that's going to make me get the result that I want. Right? That's what I want. Everything's aligned when it gets to full presentation. Here we go. Ready.
So this is something you can work right here, right? Gun comes back, press straight out. And as we press out, we lock out. See that? You start to notice though from our training, you'll see guys, if you guys pay attention like we've been asking you to, you'll see guys shoot and they'll come back and do weird shit like this. Ken Hackathorn, who I mentioned yesterday, was a Green Beret like Zee that worked at Range 37 on Fort Bragg, and he always likes to say, don't do stupid shit. And he's just saying, like, don't train something that you don't want to output, right? But look at this, like, why would I just do this? Because it looks cool? Or you'll see guys go bang, bang, or bang, bang, or bang, bang. I drew my sword, I had to slash something. I'm gonna just be like, whoa, is still out there, right? Why are you doing this? So don't build this big body and grip setup and then break it down, because then you gotta rebuild it, right? Make sense? So connect, run the gun out. This is doing a lion's share of the work. Some of you that were pushing the rounds left or low left, put your hands in front of you like this and look down at them, and just move your index fingers like this. Just your index fingers. And you'll notice as you do that, you'll see some things. What do you see?
Other fingers. Pathetic movement.
What happens when you put your finger in a baby's palm? Some of you might get arrested, so stay away, but the other fingers all close, right? Interdigit limb response, interdigit grasp. Monkeys, right? We're part of them. Not me. Whatever, I don't care. It's weird for us, our hands. If I threw you something, you wouldn't be like this to catch it, right? You'd use all your fingers. So it's just a strange, conscious movement that you're applying all this force with all your other fingers but this one, which is why guys will say use 60-40, and then you can't quantify percentages. What you're going to do is apply enough force. I need to squeeze the gun a hell of a lot less than a lot of you because I've got a pretty good grip from years of...
Ready.
So some guys will say squeeze as hard as you can. Again, I'll look at Anthony. What do you do?
I'm a geek.
Oh yeah, you're a geek. Who's my tradesman? Yeah, so you've got good strong grip, right? You might not need this. You might be applying 10% of your capable grip strength. Same gun for most of us. We're all shooting 9mm, even the 40. It's not a big deal. So let's just make up numbers. Let's say it takes 100 pounds of force to kind of keep the gun in line. Applying 10,000 pounds isn't helping you. In fact, you're going to get tired and wear your grip out, right? So we'll figure out what's necessary, and then that's what we do, right? The problem with just using this hand to fix those low left or left issues is that as soon as we put a tourniquet on this hand, now the problem reappears. So it requires you, and we'll work on some of this today, where you're single-handed and you've got a solid sight picture and you come to that wall, and your conscious effort just has to be, I'm pushing the trigger smoothly, I'm pushing it smoothly, I'm not disturbing the sights, I'm not disturbing the sights. When they move, it's not, we say it's a flinch or an anticipation or it's a grip issue. It could be any of those things, but quite simply, it's that you misaligned the sights when the shot went off. Who cares what thing you attach to it, just stop moving the sights. I was telling somebody yesterday, Dave Harrington years ago, I came up to him at a class that I was in with him, and I'm like, hey, I'm doing this thing, and I'm waiting for some like long answer that's gonna help me, and he looks at me and goes, yo bro, stop doing that, and just turned and walked away. And I was like, thanks a lot for that, you know, like great insight. But yeah, but the profoundness was, I'm the one doing it. Like, and it's quite simply, if your sights aren't aligned, don't press the trigger. If you do press the trigger and they're not aligned, recognize what you did, and then the next time, it's such a weird thing to talk, not even weird, it's such a simple thing to talk about, and here's how I often explain it. If you misaligned the sights, who misaligned them?
I did.
Or you allowed them because your, you know, heart's racing, you allowed yourself to press the trigger, right? So it requires some conscious effort to do that. So the same thing, if the sights are misaligned, we can blame it on things like oh, the people talk about the gun's gonna go off and you have this natural response to flinch. F that shit. Like, for a fraction of time, my whole life is these sights. It might be like 100th of a second, but my whole life is these sights, and my whole goal is don't move them, pressure, 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 don't move them, don't move them, don't move them, don't move them. The gun goes off, way, yay, and then put them back where you want them, or wherever they need to be next, right? That's it. So think about that as we move forward. Good connection, this hand cammed forward, tight to the trigger guard, and repeatability, right? If I'm grabbing the gun in different fashions, I'm going to get a different result, and the gun's going to recoil in a different way. So don't change everything. If change one thing at a time, okay, that's right. Maybe now I need to think about how much grip pressure I'm applying, and you're going to apply grip pressure with both. Don't try to keep this hand floppus and this hand super tight, because again, as soon as this hand comes off the gun, now this gun's floppus, right? We're not training bullseye shooting. And at the end of the day, like, if Zee ever tried to take my gun away from me, I want to be able to have a grip that I built that I'm holding the gun, right? And I can jerk it away from him and then shoot Zee and be like, you were my friend, right? But I'm not going to let him kill me. Fortunately, I would shoot him a lot, because I don't think that he'd stop. Hey, couple of you keep mentioning that you are pushing shots left or down or something like that. You're just still pressing the trigger when the sights are misaligned. You might be moving them as you're pressing the trigger, right? So keep your ears on. So as my gun comes out and I align the sights, first of all, maybe you're not aligning your sights right. Just rudimentary shit, make sure your sights are lined up. If you're shooting a dot, then maybe your dot's not zeroed. Have you all verified your zero this weekend? I don't know. I can't answer that, but maybe you're doing the right thing and your dot's zeroed. Or maybe your sights are misaligned. Ben can adjust your sights, and that might be the case, it might not, but you take the mechanical issues out of it, make sure the mechanical issues are fine, right? And if those are fine, and we know it's fine, then once the sights are aligned, and nobody told you you had to hit a certain spot, so are you aiming at the right spot? I'm going down range. This big piece of paper, if my sights are aligned on here, besides me using the sights, front sight centered in the rear sight, I can also just observe, do I have the same amount of white space to the left and right if I'm trying to hit the middle? Because you might just lose this thing all over the white if you were trying to hit the middle. So just look, do I appear to have the same amount of white left or right? Coincidentally, if you were shooting at a human, does this look pretty square between his nipples or his armpits or his shoulders or below the head? And of course, if the person's bladed, you'd have to start to think about what the middle is. But is my shit lined up, right? Is my lined up top to bottom? It's not hard, but that's just you being aware of what your gun's pointing at. If you just throw it out there and your shit's bouncing around, instead, for a second, close everything in, and do I have equal target on either side of the gun or the sights? Like if I've got looking through a window of my dot and I see this, like if through my dot I see this space on the left edge or the right edge, that would indicate to me that I am pushed one way or the other. Just very basic shit. Yesterday we worked on that slack coming out of the trigger for a fraction of time. When you're shooting quick, you're not taking the slack out and pressing through. but you're developing a good trigger press when you get the slack out and then you press through, meaning that you're being responsible for the sights being lined up where you want them to be. Does that make sense? So as the gun comes out and you line them up, notice, is my front sight to the left or the right in the notch? No, it's lined up. Okay, let me keep it there. Pressure, 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 shot breaks. Shot went a little left of center. Why'd that happen? I don't know. Okay, that one went low. Why'd that happen? That one went left again. Why'd that happen? Oh, that's better, right? You're just being aware of where they're at and recognizing what was happening in your hands and what you were seeing. That's all. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. Gunfighter Gun Oil. We don't have some big sales team. Why? Because we don't need it. The world's best lube. Hands down. Protects your guns, lubricates the snot out of them, and it's made in America.